So we have rendered two separate files, which is located here. One is linear color space and sRGB, linear gamma and sRGB color space, and the other one is ACES. ACES we are going to use for Davinci Resolve, and for Photoshop we will be using the linear one. So each of these files contain cryptomate masks, world normal, and depth passes. So they will be all read in Photoshop. But before we jump into Photoshop, we need to install one plugin, which is named EXR.io. You can find it in here in Stock and Marketplace. So basically, if you go to here, to Stock and Marketplace, and type EXR.io, you will see this plugin. This is it, EXR.io, and you need to install that. I already have it installed, so it's working in Photoshop and for my version. So next, what you're gonna do is to take this EXR file. This one is linear and this one is ACES. You just drag and drop there, and EXR.io will be asking you, hey, what you would like to import. We need to checkbox cryptomate masks, but don't use transparent. We just need the masks. Click open, and you will see right now that you have multiple layers. They are already prepared for you. So this one is world depth, then world normal, and a mask for our HDRI backdrop and for our car actor. So the thing here is that, as I stated before, we are using in object IDs for Cryptomate, we are using only actor, because I don't want you to get messed up with all this information and masks. We use the simplest one because we have only two actors here, just the car and HDRI backdrop. If we set this one to full or material, we would have dozens, maybe even hundreds of masks, because our car has a lot of shading, a lot of material is applied, right? And this will be just having dozens or like a lot of masks here, so you would need to scroll down. That one is really good for people doing the retouch. I'm not using Photoshop really almost at all, so please excuse my level of knowledge, but I'll just show you how to use these masks here. So for that one, we would need just the actor map for mask for our HDRI backdrop. So what we do, we just select this layer, hit Ctrl A on the keyboard, copy that by Ctrl C, then we go and we need to duplicate this layer actually. So I will duplicate the layer, and in this layer I will create basically the mask. So I need to click there, select the mask by clicking on by holding Alt on your keyboard and selecting the mask, and then you just paste it. So we have the mask prepared, and if you see, like, I can disable the car and it will disappear or appear if I'm doing like that, or if I have different layers I can bring them on. So you can basically do those swipe animations with this sort of thing. And right now we actually can use this layer which is on the top for some basic image corrections. So if I go to brightness and contrast, I can decrease brightness and increase the contrast of the background only, so it will not affect our car whatsoever, right? So I can just like do that. So I will adjust a little bit brightness and contrast. You can do that with curves or like with any tool which you know and you're familiar, because I'm like, as I said, I don't use Photoshop much. And then we can go to filter, blur, and add some motion blur, just a little bit on the background. I think this one is actually enough, like 15 pixels. Like if we go way overboard, that would be like not looking natural. So like about 15 pixels is just enough, and this is looking for me already okay. So if I disable that, you can see the difference. We have much darker shadow here underneath the car, which is matching the car basically better with the environment. And we have a little bit motion blur for our background. So for Photoshop, it's pretty quick and easy. If we had, for example, any other sort of masks, we could change more things. And for example, if I duplicate this layer here, and I would like to put it on top, or I will keep it there actually, where it is. And here, because I have already one layer on top, which is like basically disabling anything else, I can go into image, adjustments, or like a camera raw filter. So filter, camera raw filter, and I can play around with red. For example, I can change the hue of red, basically moving it to any other color and adjusting, you know, the colors of the car, or like go into color grading and adjust a little bit of this one, but it will be only affecting this layer. So yeah, see, it's like looking now pretty dumb, to be honest. So yeah, that's for demonstration purposes only, how you can change the color of the car, for example, and basically adjust your picture better and match it with the background, even though it looked really well even without it, but still you can do some additional refinements in Photoshop. Now let's jump into Davinci Resolve. This is where things are getting serious, at least for me, or like for compositor, if you are doing any adjustments for the videos. So if you open Davinci Resolve, first of all, what we need to do is to install Reactor plugin. This will be also linked into the description, so you will be able to download that one. It's completely free and works really, really good. It is also available for installation for the free version of Davinci Resolve, and this is why I use Davinci Resolve instead of Premiere Pro, because it has much more features, it's much more well structured and has a lot of plugins for that one. So you need to download this Reactor installer script, then go to Davinci Resolve and go to Fusion. On my desktop, I already have the Reactor here. So just drag and drop it into the node field here in Davinci and Fusion tab here, and just click install and launch and wait until it loads. It basically connects to repository and it downloads all of those configuration files. I will guide you through which nodes actually, or which plugins you can install, but also check the description, see what you can get from Reactor plugin, because there are a lot of plugins which, for example, are free compared to plugins which are already in Davinci Resolve, right? But they are only available for the paid version. And anyway, using free version of Davinci Resolve, you will be able to use any of those plugins which Reactor actually allows you to install. So this is a really neat tool and makes Fusion really, really well built for free and a good compositing tool, just as Nuke. So when everything is loaded, you will be greeted with all these functions and all these React plugins. So which plugins you need is Cryptomate, just check it. Also we need Split EXR, this one, Split EXR Ultra, and the last one which is we need is Depth Defocus, because we will be using the depth path for defocusing. This will give you the option to create the depth of field afterwards on the post process. So basically, like in Nuke, you can use the depth for defocusing and render all your images from Unreal Engine without depth of field and then add the defocus afterwards. So check Cryptomate, Depth Defocus, and Split EXR. This is the basic ones. There are a lot of plugins like filmic lens flares and so on and so on. They're just like a bunch of them. You can check out the Reactor documentation to see what plugins the people use. There are a lot of tutorials on YouTube how to use them, but we will just use the main ones which we already have. I already have them installed. When you select them and click install, that will be installed, and after that Davinci Resolve will ask you actually to restart Davinci, and after that you can use it. So right now I don't need to restart Fusion because I have everything here. Now let's set up our project for the ACES pipeline. Let's go to settings here. In color management, you need to select ACES CCT because we use CCT for our preparation. Use ACES 1.3. And for ACES input transform, I prefer to put Rec 709. You can actually set it to no input transform. In that case, Davinci Resolve will be getting the information about color space from the metadata of the video. But for that, you need raw files. So if you have, for example, red raw videos or ARRI Alexa videos, video files, it will read the metadata and will convert it automatically into ACES, and you will not be, doing any manual thing. But for now, this one, if you set this one, you'll be able to manually set inputs for any of your files which you import in media pool. So for this one, let's select Rec 709 and output also Rec 709, so we will see everything in our viewport as Rec 709 final footage. And what is the benefit of that? So basically, you will have import, then you'll have timeline, which will be in the ACES, and the final transform you will have in the Rec 709. Check the box, use color space, aware grading tools, and hit save. So the thing is with the ACES pipeline that here in color tab, for example, all the nodes which you create will be working in ACES color space, which is really nice. And you have like this fidelity, and all of the footages will be working in the same color space. And with the HDR wheels, they will be working absolutely the same for any footage that you have. It doesn't matter if you have CGI render, if you have camera, red camera, ARRI camera, anything. Like basically your working color space is ACES, and you will be able to manipulate with this one here, and it will be photometrically correct. So let's go to our renders here, and let's drop our ACES in our media pool. Because I set it Rec 709, see, it doesn't recognize our footage as ACES or something. It just shows us the footage which we imported, but it should be Rec 709 even if I drop it on the timeline. What we need to do, like if you have multiple files, or if you imported the sequence, like you have like 100 files, and when you select 100 files and drop it there, you will have it as one file, one media file, which is like imported as a sequence. So you need to right click on this sequence or file. You need to set the ACES input transform. See, it's like by default it thinks it is Rec 709, and then you need to color space conversion and pick ACES CCT for that one, and bam, it is all correct here. It's now Rec 709 and you can work with this one. And if you go to Fusion, it has some difference in terms of lighting, mapping. You can disable that and it will show you basically linear, because Fusion works in linear color space, and this will show you the linear render, but we don't want that. We want to see what we are doing, so we put it here. Okay, now we would like to make some adjustments, right? For example, I would like to use the Cryptomate or world normal for relighting, right? In order to do that, to get the masks, you won't be able to get it from media in, because it's just like beauty pass. It doesn't have any other passes inside here. It just like shows you the beauty pass. For having all this like masks, world normals and so on, you need to get the loader node. To bring up the loader window, it's just like in Unreal Engine. When you bring the content browser, you need to click on your keyboard Control Space, and here look for loader node. When you hit enter, it will ask you for the file which you would like to load, and if we pick this one, that's the ACES one, we can open that one and we can preview that by dragging this into this left window. We'll have it here, or to the right window, because we have two windows. Right now it is displaying on both. You can just grab media out and drop it here, and you will have your footage, and in this window we have our different loader node here. So either you can use buttons 1 and 2 on your keyboard. So if I click on 1, it will display also on left viewport. And if I click 1 again, it will disable the image. And you can see it here where the dots are located. So if I click 1, there is a black dot or white dot, and it's showing that in my first window, I have my footage there, the node which I'm currently previewing. So for this one, we have this. In order to use Cryptomate, it's just as easy almost as in Photoshop. You just select the node, control space, and look for Cryptomate node. And if I click 1 to preview that one, I can see all the masks. By default, they are used as the color. So you can define them, because if I had like hundreds materials here, I would have like a lot of different colors showing me what Cryptomate contains. In order to add this Cryptomate and use it as mask, you can drag, for example, this pointer chooses the area which you're going to add. So for now, let's add our background. So if I click here, add, it will add it to me, but you can't use that as mask. In order to use that as mask, you need to convert the view mode to matte. So right now I have my matte, and I can do some changes. For example, if I add color corrector node here, right? And there is multiple inputs, as you can see. So yellow always stands for background, green one for foreground, and the blue one is for mask or matte. So here I have the matte, which is black and white. And if I connect it here, I will tell my color correction node that I want only to color grade what is here on the back behind, right? And if I do, for example, change gamma and lower it down, it will only lower down the gamma on the behind on our HDRI actor, right? So I can just like change this one. But I prefer to color grade actually in color page. And how to do that? So what we can do and how to pass the Cryptomate masks to color tab, because like this information is really hard to find, and not much people using Fusion because it's considered not an industry standard. The industry standard is Nuke, so that's why it's really hard to find. And how do we approach that? By default, if you go to color tab, there is input source, right? And in Fusion, you have media out. They are interlinked with the color tab. If I disconnect this one and go to color, I have nothing. And if I connect this one back, I have my picture in color page. So in order to get this one, we need to select Cryptomate and look for media out node. Now we have the media out number 2, and if you select this one to show in our second window by clicking 2 on your keyboard, you see that this is a matte, black and white. And now you can go to color page, and here right click, add source, and right now if I create the node in which I, for example, let's change the temperature to really cool or warm. Let's do the warm one. And if I connect this one, remember blue is always the mask. And if I connect this source into the mask, you see that only the background is affected. And it's really neat way to color grade with proper preview in Rec 709. And you can do this really easily by passing the masks. For example, the next thing what I would like to do, I can go to Fusion, back, and create another Cryptomate node. Connect this one, and this node, I'll preview it here. In this node, I will add mask of our car and switch this one to matte and create another media out. Here we have media out number 3. And here I will add source number 3, and I will create another node for source number 3 and connect it here as mask. And here I would like to change, for example, the color of our car. Let's disable this one because really I actually, let's reset the temperature and match it with the contrast a little bit. So I would like to get a little bit darker shadows, maybe a little bit blacks, and let's maybe add some contrast, right? And we'll add some contrast to this scene, and that will look more better. It will match with the car much more. Maybe if we add a little bit more of saturation, because our car is really saturated, so we can actually go to global here and increase the saturation of our scene, and maybe let's make it more, let's say, autumn look, right? So we can do the hue versus hue here, because there is also saturation. You can pick some colors and change the saturation of these colors, but we don't need that for now. So let's pick our yellow colors and change a little bit the hue. We can either go like with more summer look, you know, making all yellows more green and so on. But right now I would like to make it more autumn look. So I will go a little bit more towards orange. I'll pick the green one too, and also move it towards the more yellowish colors. And right now we have much better matching scene. It's more contrasty, it's more poppy, just like our car, and it is like orange autumn look, for example. And here I would like just to change the color of the color. Let's imagine that I had masks for each material, and I selected material which is body paint, right, or car paint, and I'm feeding this mask here in this node, and we right now can change the color. So I just pick red and yellows, and maybe I would like to make it green, or I would like to make it blue. But for this one, you see, it's just like some magenta tones which are not toned. So we need to pick magenta, move the yellows. So basically we're trying to eradicate everything like what is color in our car, and try to mitigate like the color and make it blue, right? So something like that. Our magenta colors. Actually, I'm curious what else we can do with this one. Maybe move it there like this. If I had only the color for the body paint, that would be easier, but yeah, that's only for demonstration purposes. So yes, I think like this would be fine. Make it just blue, and this is it. But as you can see, right, there is like some errors on the rims, but that's not a problem. You can actually mask your changes still like in Davinci Resolve by selecting like the mask, then inverting that, because I don't want the wheels to be affected, and I want still like red calipers there. So I can just go here and apply the mask on this part of my car, and that will be not affected by our color grading. See, so like something like that. So basically it's the basic way to do that. But what also you can do in Fusion, why I asked you to use the split EXR. So we need to get the world normal. You either can do that by going into format, and in the channels for a Z channel, for example, you can use the world normal or world depth. So let's first try to split this one. So this is a script, it's not the node. So you need to right click, script, split EXR, run and close, and you have those masks, which are like basically cryptomate masks. This is our world depth, and this last one is world normal. So you can, for example, use the relight node. So this one is from the paid version of Davinci Resolve, but still you can use input 2 and connect one into input 2 here in the green one, and we go there, and we can connect our beauty pass from here into our relight node. And when you preview this one, you can see that it is doing this relight, and you will have, if we change it to directional light, it will be changing all our like car light and the background light. So yeah, this one is mostly used by compositors. We don't need to do that, but just like showing you the functionality, because composer can ask you actually to export the world normals to relight the scene, or just in case, so you will not re-render, all of that stuff which you made. Next one is depth path, but depth path is actually stored in red channel, and right now we are previewing only channels. To see only red channel, you need to go here and select red one, and this is our world path, but it is just kind of strange, right? So what is better to do? You can select your loader node, and in loader node on Z channel, you need to go for world depth. And as I said, it is stored in R channel, in red channel. This is what Unreal Engine documentation states. So you pick this one, and right now we can add the node depth defocus, the one which we actually, downloaded from the Reactor plugin, and you hit add. You pick the channel, depth map channel should be Z as we select it, and just drag and drop this one into depths here. So this is the depth defocus map. There is currently a problem with Unreal Engine, I will tell you. So we need first to readjust all this like sharp zone, and we need to see, I think that's in red or in color. So the focus strength, so let's see what we are getting there. Sharp zone, yes, this is the perspective correction. And the thing is, it's really strange, and I still don't understand why, but translucent materials are not recorded into the world depth, so they will be like destroying your image. They will be really like making it terrible. So let's connect our beauty path here, and let's preview our node. Oh, see, let's get it into color. And you see, it just like destroys all this glass material and just blurs it out. But we can actually, work around this one. As I said, there is a mask input. There is like blue input. That means that you can connect the mask. So we need to pick the mask which we would like to use for our depth defocus. So we can try connecting this one and see if this one helps. This one doesn't, so probably we need to connect only our background mask. Yes, see, it is fixed right now, because right now we have the mask which is only applied to our background. And if we use the focus right now, we can change the focus strength. For example, let's change it and increase it. See, it's just like starting to defocus the background, and we can make it actually anamorphic. So I don't use a lot of defocus because, well, it just feels unnatural. You can't have like, huge defocus for such big distance. I don't know, what should the camera be, like f1 point whatever, 0.5 maybe. So I just use a little bit, and I add like this y multiplied to 2, so we will have like this anamorphic sort of defocus. And if I increase the defocus, you'll see how it stretches and creating this anamorphic bokeh here, right? This is like additional feature which you can use just as your own desire. So I will just decrease the defocus. I will just add a little bit. I don't need a lot of the focus. And we can actually like check on the sharp zone what is happening, perspective correction, so we will not have a lot of this duplicating here on the edges. And we can play around a little bit with the focus strength. And this is it, how we can do that. Let's just disable this one. It looks ugly. But also what you can do, Davinci Resolve in terms of color grading has a lot of features. So let's add another node which will be affecting everything, so we can work with the global, because those wheels are actually working in ACES color space. And if you have different footages, like for example filmed footage from this location too, for example, right, if you use global or any other like wheel, you will have the same effect on each of the footage files. Also, what you can do in terms of color grading, you can apply Davinci Resolve LUTs, which are here, located here in LUTs, film looks, and this is basically a film emulation. And there are just versions for DCI P3 and for Rec 709 color space, and we can apply them. Usually it's better to use them for linear color space with the color space transform, which you do manually, but we can apply them in ACES. This is what I'm showing you right now, is basically like a workaround, or like if you want to quickly stylize your picture, but you should not do that with ACES pipeline. Basically, if you're doing some color grading, you can do it by yourself by tweaking temperature, for example, adding some contrast, and basically doing some curves and hues with changing the colors, basically taking all the red, going instead with orange, and maybe doing some global corrections with these instruments, right? But if you'd like to quickly stylize your picture and make it look like with the film stock emulation, you can use this workaround, which I'm going to show you right now. So you can create two nodes. They will be color space transformed because we are working in ACES color space. And within ACES color space, we need to make this like gate where the ACES color space will travel into Rec 709 and Cineon Gamma, and then travel back from Rec 709 to ACES. This is like really a workaround, and it's better to apply them for linear footages, which you're doing, or for Rec 709 footages, which you render from Unreal Engine by using like Apple ProRes, as I showed you before, with lazy path tracing and lazy lumen. But this is like a quick way to stylize your picture to film stock emulation. So basically, I cheat a lot in Davinci Resolve in order to get the look which Unreal Engine can't give me right away from the render. So here we pick ACES AP1, ACES CCT, and we use output color space, Rec 709, and the gamma should be Cineon film log, because those film prints, they are working in Cineon. Then I just like by holding Alt, I will drag this one here and click swap. And if I select both of those nodes and press Ctrl D on the keyboard, you see there is no change. That means that we did the proper color management here and making this gate. To create the node between them, select this one and press Shift S on your keyboard. Or if you select this one, you will add serial node after by Alt S here. And then you can apply this LUT to this node, but as you can see, it is like over bright, super contrast, and we need to apply max output here so it will look better. Next step, what we can do is to decrease the gain, like basically of this node, just a little bit, removing this look from our footage like this, maybe a little bit more. And in the previous node, we can adjust a little bit shadows up like that, and we got the stylized picture. So this is how before and after looks like. You can also adjust the light, so we'll get more of the details in the highlights by adjusting the light wheel here. And we have like nicely stylized picture before and after. So yeah, we can even increase a little bit of this LUT which we are having here, and we can tweak the temperature back down, reset it basically back, or make it a little bit colder. So anyway, you can play around as much as you want in Davinci Resolve. And what I also do, I'm using some like plugins from the paid version, which is film grain. For example, I add here, set it to 35 millimeters 400T, increase the strength and reduce the softness and increase the saturation. And basically this gives me this grainy image, and it looks like this, photoshopped, like heavily photoshopped images, but it gets you, better look. So we have a little bit of defocus on the background. We have some film grain. We separately did some changes to our background, so it looks, more autumn look, more orange, and more matching with our car, because the blacks are now, you see, if I disable this one, the blacks are now matching with our car. We have proper shadow under the car, and we have really nice final render. So this before and after. You can also adjust the amount of grain. This one, I'm reminding you, this is a paid plugin, like the plugin of the paid version. So we can also, in advanced controls, we can decrease the, in midtones and highlights, we can decrease the amount of noise and grain. So we can make it like this. And yeah, this is basically it. And that gives us the final result. And I'm always using Davinci Resolve to color grade my renders. Probably most of the time I'm not going that deep using like Cryptomate masks, but this is what you really can get out of Unreal Engine, combining it with other free tools such as Davinci Resolve. Now let's quickly color grade our lazy renders, which are filmed in Rec 709, so I can show you the difference between applying the slot in ACES and the usual lazy way when you have everything in Rec 709. So let's pick all of our images here and just drop them right into the timeline. As you remember, the settings which we had here for properties and details, we have 810 frame rate. So let's change these timeline settings and change our height resolution to 808, and this is it basically. That's how it looks like in Rec 709, but I would like to give it a little bit more contrast. So let's jump into the color, and here we will be able to change any color. Let's enable clips, and right now we are able to color grade this one, so that already looks beautiful. So as I said, you can use color space, and for output color space and gamma, we should use Rec 709, and for output gamma we are using Cineon Film Log. And here we can apply our Rec 709 lot, and as you can see, it gives us this like cinematic vibe and feel with bluish in the midtones and so on. So that looks really nice. I think this one for the output uses the gamma 2.4, but I already work in Rec 709 2.4, so yeah, this is not needed. Just got used to this one. And we can select all the clips, and now just by clicking on the middle button on the clip which you already graded, we can apply this grade to all of those shots, and we will have this nice, how to say, like cinematic vibe here. And if you find that it is too dark, we still are working in ProRes, which has a lot of information in terms of information in dark and light areas. So we can Shift S here to create the node before, and we can crank up the shadows a little bit and keep the darks just black, so we will not have this washed out shadows. That looks really, really good for me. And obviously you can adjust. Basically those HDR wheels are really helping to work with the scene by using the shadows, settings, light. You can play with the exposure here, and if you would like to change some tone, for example here, I would like to make this scene probably a bit darker, because the highlights are just like super bright, and we can use the global to darken the scene a little bit and have more depths into that, so allowing more contrast. This one I think just too bright. Also I can click on Shift S on the keyboard to create the node before and adjust the globals and drop the shadows a little bit to make it more you know, I would say dominant look in this one. But look at how much of the difference it gives. We just have more cinematic feeling here, those all these colors and toning. So this is really a good way to crank up your renders a little bit. This one probably I will copy this setup from the previous shot, so will be both really dark. And if you would like to change any of the particular color in this hue or like curves, you can have different color and pick them, like red one, and go to hue versus saturation, select red ones and change the saturation of the red, so it will not be that bright and will be looking much more realistic, I feel, because the red ones are always like oversaturated and over bright. So that is pretty easy approach, and you can have really nice, I would say, feeling in this one. So yeah, just like that. See how much of the toning it gives us. So if I disable that one, we have everything, like I would say, flat, even though it's Rec 709, but our scene is pretty much, you know, very decent color. So it's just flattened right now. It gives a little bit more of volume, I would say, and depth into the shot when you have this like high contrast. And that is basic approach. As I mentioned previously, we can go with the film grain, add some film grain. You can use any like footages of the grain and apply that. I always apply grain just for the sake of it, because the renders, they often turn up really clean. And in this like dark environment, you can't have the clean image filmed on the camera, because that should be just a little bit more noisy and grainy. And this is why I would love to add some grain. I would love to add some grain and just like increase the amount, and it just gives this feeling of like film stock print or film which is like used for the cameras. So it just like really adds a little bit of the character to the shot. And but that's just my style. I like dirty frames. I like to make it dirty, look really rough. So adding grain always is a good idea in my opinion. You may go for like cleaner renders, but this is lumen render and it looks fantastic. And adding this bit of grain just gives you this proper feeling of the film stock emulation. So we disable that one. So it already looks like commercial, not like render. So this is it, and this is what I wanted to share with you. You obviously not obliged to use just LUTs. You can do your own looks by using those tools, but this is like separate huge amount of information which will probably take another 15 hours.